That's not where that pile goes. Good. Oh, well, hello, you two. I didn't see you there. I'm just stacking my notebook piles
And live and for you.
and waiting to be joined by our friends from Instagram. Greetings, Instagram. Meredith Moore here in beautiful downtown Lawrence, Kansas, a physical place.
Joined by Paul DeGeorge. We're your hosts of the Wonder Fair Home Shopping Network.
Indeed. We are in our second month of unexpected broadcasts here at our brick and mortar stationery shop / art supply shop / zine shop / art gallery / haunted bathroom access point.
And don't worry that you can't come in right now because you can still visit the haunted bathroom at home from the comfort and safety of your own home. Just go to Wonderfair's virtualhauntedbathroom.com.
You'll never feel safer using a haunted bathroom than right now in the comfort of your home. Maybe cue it up on your laptop while you're in the bathroom.
There you go. Best viewed from the laptop in your bathroom.
No doubt. Paul, we have a lot to do today because
it's true.
Housekeeping.
Yes.
As promised, specifically to a friend and wonder friend who, like me, loves notebooks. And I had teased a while back that I could do a whole episode on notebooks.
Well, guess what, Stacy? You're in luck. You're not getting one episode. Definitely going to be two.
Yeah, I mean, actually, I think Stacy's whole family is going to be excited about this. But small problem. Wonder Fair update. Staff update. Dave's squeaker's broken.
Dave's got a meow problem.
His meow doesn't sound right, and we're anxious. So we're taking Dave to the vet, and they were able to fit us in at 1 p.m. So we will be leaving early, and Wonder Fair will be useless to you for a minute, because we gotta get the good boy to the vet.
Yep, gotta take Dave in and find out what's wrong.
Squeaker's broke. And his squeaker, he meows a lot. So when his meow doesn't sound right, you're gonna know about it. So just in case he ate something goofy, we're going to check that out, and we will keep you updated tomorrow when we find out if it's all cool. Maybe he's just having some hay fever.
Could be. Do cats have allergies?
Yes, cats do have seasonal allergies. And he's been spending more time outside, and I got to say, my allergies aren't great. So anyway, that's probably not it, but whatever. So I have a lot of notebooks to show you, a lot of ground to cover, and not a lot of time. So would you like to quickly announce the local news?
There's not much to announce. I'll just say we ate tacos at Mama's Tamales yesterday, got takeout. Highlight for me was their Sandia, which is the watermelon drink, and that was great. I hadn't had that from them before, and I loved it. Yeah. I'll be back for more, probably once it gets really warm, every day.
It just tastes like watermelon water, folks. It's delicious. And once again, they're Carnitas Reign Supreme.
Great carnitas.
So check
right
it
here
out.
Downtown.
Quality tacos for
classic
good price.
Street tacos.
Okay, Paul.
Let's talk notebooks. We're getting right into it today, folks.
We have to. We have. In fact, I already know I'm not going to make it all in one episode.
Yeah, we can tell. I mean, I don't know if y'all can see the table here, but it's covered in notebooks.
Wonder Fair's carried notebooks since its beginnings, and I personally, of all the stationery in all the world, and you've probably noticed that I quite love stationery in all its many varied forms. I like washi tape, I like pens, I like pencils, I like sharpeners and erasers, and I can get excited about pretty much anything with material quality that helps you be creative, but notebooks are number one for me. I have an extensive collection of notebooks I've never written in, that just in case, and whenever a new project begins, I always have a perfect notebook for it at home, or in my extensive second home, which is Wonder Fair.
Yeah.
So
no shortage here.
I feel a little anxious even to talk about notebooks because I want to do it justice, and I just know that this is not a time in our lives when I'm doing my best everything.
Yeah.
So please bear with me as I will probably misspeak at some point and slightly misquote a size to you, but I'm going to do my best to start out our notebook adventure together with an overview of how to understand how to buy the perfect notebook for you. You're going to need the lingo. You're going to need all the secret keywords so that you can tell someone what you're looking for. And you might not even know what you're looking for because you don't know what it exists. This is a unique thing to humans. We need language to talk about our needs sometimes to have them met. So we're going to talk briefly about some of the options in notebooks more broadly. And then in tomorrow's episode, ideally, I'll drill down into comparing some of the brands that give you those options. Does that all make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Whew. I feel like I need to stretch. Okay, Paul, what would you like to say about notebooks before I dive in?
Where are we going to start? You're going to start with the guts?
I think I'm going to start with sizing.
Where do you even start with? Okay, sizing.
So,
oh boy, this is fun.
It is fun. There's so much to know. So when folks come in the store looking for a notebook and are a little uncertain, we have a little bit of a flow chart of questions that we ask them to help find the perfect notebook of the hundreds we sell. And the first question I generally start with is there a size you have in mind for your perfect notebook? Because I think that's the simplest way to figure out what direction to go. There are other ways you could start thinking about hardback versus softback. Maybe think about price, though frankly, the range of prices in notebooks is not that wide, so most people can afford, within reason, a notebook of any type.
I mean, let's be honest, we're talking about slightly fancier notebooks now than your average $2 Mead pharmacy purchase.
It's true. We don't sell as much of like the grocery store big produce notebooks.
Big produce,
where there's just a lot of them floating around. These are notebooks that are generally designed to be more like heirloom quality. The paper qualities at Wonderfair always usually going to be fountain pen friendly, or if it's not, it's because it's friendly to something else in a very specific way. Mm-hmm. So indeed, these are the fancy things. So let's talk fancy notebook sizes, because when you're thinking about what notebook you want to choose, generally people know exactly what purpose they want it for, unless you're me and you're just buying notebooks because they're cool. Mm-hmm. And you know you'll eventually find a purpose. But if you're purpose driven in your notebook life, you're probably going to know, hey, I need a pocket-sized notebook, or yo, I need a book large enough to write in, but also easy enough to carry with me everywhere I go. Mm-hmm. Maybe you need a notebook that's lighter weight. Maybe you need a notebook that's larger because you're using it for note-taking extensively, or you like to doodle very large. So people are already going to generally know how to answer that question for me. What size of notebook do you want to start with? So let's go through notebook sizes from top to bottom. First up, who came up with the system of notebook sizing? In a world.
This could be a whole episode right here, just like the system of sizing.
It could.
But good place to start. Here we go. In a world where everybody lives in different countries and produces products at a different rate, but we all want things to be somewhat less chaotic. Germany. The punchline to that is always Germany. They came up with a lot of good systems, folks, a lot of bad ones too. But in the 1920s, before things really went off the rails for them, they worked out a system of kind of international measurement that has generally been adopted by the world. The ISO is what we call it now. But generally, notebooks are divided into 3 paper size categories: the A system, the B system, and the C system. Oh, I never even heard of the C system.
Ain't nobody gonna be talking about the C system today, because it's like a wacky system, mostly used for measuring envelopes that you stick a notebook inside of. So we carry products in the C system that are notebook covers, but we're not going to deal with accessories today. We're talking about those, just the guts.
Just the guts.
Just the guts. So the A system is the most prevalent. It's probably what you're going to be buying your notebooks in. And then you have a slightly more granular option in the B system, which are going to be sizes that fall in the middle of each A. So you get A and then a B and then an A and then a B. B is generally going to be slightly bigger than an A.
Okay.
So an A5 notebook is going to be a little bit smaller than a B5 notebook. So how did they choose what numbers? Well, it all begins with A1. A1 is a big old piece of paper.
Big piece of paper.
I wish I had one.
Usually the smaller thing, but in paper size, it's big.
I might have one somewhere, but I didn't bring it in time for the show. So an A1 piece of paper is like poster size, basically. Mm-hmm. And then when you take that poster size A1 piece of paper and you baby shark fold it in half, you get an A2. You follow me? A1 is one big sheet. A2, you turned your A1 into 2 sheets of paper by splitting it down the middle the horizontal way. Hamburger. 2. Yep. So 1 becomes 2. And through mathematics and magic, when you split an A1 sheet in 2, the aspect ratio remains the same for each notebook. This is hard to do, actually, with rectangles. Rarely, you got to be pretty careful about what size you start with to fold and always have the aspect ratio, which is to say, like, Y'all know what an aspect ratio is, right?
Mhm.
Because I can't explain.
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Okay, great.
It's where the proportion of one side to the other side is always the same.
Cool. So we got to keep those proportions the same. So A2, two become 1. So to get an A3, which I have an example of right here, you fold an A2 in half. So this is an A3 pad of Tomoe River loose leaf paper. So if you wanted to have, this is a big notebook. These exist. We actually sell a sketchbook in this size made by Moleskine.
I recommend getting the biggest notebook you can.
Show up at a meeting with a notebook this big, and people are going to talk
You're
about
the boss now.
You're the boss now. Or if the meeting's boring, you're just taking notes, folks, but you're napping. You're napping on the Zoom call.
They can't see you behind the notebook.
So this is not a functional size you'll rarely see in a meeting, but magically, if you buy, say, loose leaf A3 sheets, or if you just straight up want to buy the next size down in notebooks, that's going to be an A4, which is basically folding this in half, and then you have an A4.
Which I have here.
And there's an A4 size. So you'll see how this, it's half of this,
Half.
and then A4 is basically what you're used to seeing in like notebooks and things. It is not quite 8.5 by 11, which is letter size, but America, like we do in so many ways, inches. The metric system. We just don't comply with international sizing. We don't do
40
it.
years ago, Ronald Reagan blew our chance at the metric system.
So true. So
amongst many other things.
So letter size is a little different in the US than anywhere else, but this is essentially letter size. It's a little bit longer and a little bit narrower than 8.5 by 11, but it'll get the job done. So next up, A5, the most common notebook size. Boop, boop,
Split it
two
in half.
A5s, make an A4, and then we can just keep going down. Here's an A6. So two A6s, boop and boop, equal an A5. And then keep going. A7, two A7s equal an A6. There is not an A8 to my
Stop
knowledge.
at 7.
You could make an A8 because the magic of a system is that you can keep using it to create infinite varieties, and then your tiny notebook will be so thick it will reach the moon, and you will not be able to write on the tiny, tiny papers. That would be like an A100, but I don't know if that could exist in the world.
Maybe with some real precision cutting.
That would be pretty amazing. I wonder what the smallest A system notebook is ever made. I would love to know that. I don't know it, but one day I will. So
we could really get ourselves on the map with that one.
Totally.
Huh?
All right. So now that we've talked about the A system, let's just briefly touch on the B system. So like I said, Bs are ever so slightly larger than As. So this is A5 Tomoe River loose leaf. This is B5. So you can see it's just ever so slightly larger. Maybe it'd be easier to show you on a B5 in a contrasting color. So here's an A5 to a B5. We often find that when people find an A5 notebook a little bit too small for their longhand, they'll size up to a B5, and it's the Goldilocks for them.
Get them in the B system.
So Bs are less common than As. And then, of course, you got a bunch of weirdos that companies are just like, I'm just going to make the notebook I want in the size I want. And we'll talk about some of those too. Whew.
Paper size. There's also
ISO.
Notebooks that don't adhere to that international system.
Yeah,
In
we're
fact,
gonna show some.
Most ones made in the United States will not.
Yeah, they don't as often use the A system, but let's be quite honest, there aren't that many manufacturers of notebooks in the United States compared to in other countries. So
even if they're not being manufactured here, U.S. companies making notebooks tend to not adhere to the international.
Are you
system.
talking on some barren figs right now?
Not just barren fig, Field Notes as well.
Yeah,
over
that's true.
here.
That's true. Well, we'll talk about those in a second.
Which name another U.S. manufacturer of notebooks.
Yeah. I wonder, is barren fig actually half of an 8.5 by 11? Nope, it's not. They're just doing whatever they want. Okay. So here's another way to look at all of the A sizes. I made a beautiful rainbow of Leuchtturm notebooks for you because Leuchtturm look great, come in a million colors, and help me show you sizes so you can see aspect ratio wise. Boop, boop. Sorry, Instagram. It's too far and I'm alone now. A7 at the bottom, then A6, and then A5, and then a B5, and then an A4 up at the top. So very beautiful, very much variety. Very much good job, Germany, for helping notebooks be standardized. So you could buy refills for notebooks. You could buy accessories that fit interchangeably. You could plan apps that can scan pages more easily. There's a lot of reasons standardizing paper made the world a better place for notebook nerds. So I gotta stop talking about sizes because I gotta start talking about how you pick which one you want. So let's go smallest to largest.
We got a Instagram comment I'd like to acknowledge. It's from substitute fact checker Emily Ryan, who chimes in, big produce brand mead used to be made in St. Joe.
No way. That's
Wow,
amazing.
great
St.
tidbit.
Joseph, Missouri, Kansas.
It's in Missouri.
It is,
And
but in my heart, it feels like Kansas.
A number one fact checker Kate Meyer says internet claims A13 is the smallest international standard size
would be
ever
so
made.
Tiny.
9 by 13 millimeters.
Okay.
That is truly,
7,
it's like a
8,
13 millimeters.
A9,
That's like
A10,
just
A11,
over a half inch tall.
A12.
Yeah.
Oh, it would be so tiny. It would be like tinier than my fingernail.
This is great. We're having a great time learning lots about sizes, but sounds like we're moving on.
Well, we're going to start talking about, so once I've asked a customer what size of notebook would be ideal for them, generally people have a sense, or at least I can help them hone in by having them answer more questions like, okay, well, you're going to carry it every day, and do you want it to be small enough to fit in a bag? Do you need it to be large do you need it to be hardback because you write on your lap, or can it be softback because you want it to be less weighty?
Mm-hmm.
All of these questions go into a person's perfect notebook matchmaking decision. But let's start smallest to largest, and I'm just going to start talking about generally some features of notebooks that might make them perfect for you. Let's start with tiny notebooks. So let's start with a sized notebook. Maybe we should start with some weirdos. I'll start with the smallest one because it's very easy to explain. This is a notebook you buy because it's so cute.
Right.
It is A7 size. It fits in the palm of your hand. It's made by Leuchtturm. We sell them. They're actually tiny hardback notebooks that just look like tinier versions of their bigger notebooks. So for my money, here's what you do. You buy your smallest child the smallest notebook. You buy your middlest child the middlest notebook. You buy your oldest child the A5 notebook, and you buy you the A4 notebook, and then you just have a cute family notebook.
Do the whole fam.
Oh my gosh.
That's
then you all go journaling in the park together.
Yeah. What's the occasion for which everybody gets their own size notebook? It's like a big old Christmas gift, right?
Well, we learned yesterday from Nikita that it is the full moon in Gemini is a-coming, and it's a time for planning. So maybe everybody sits down and writes out like their goals and intentions for the summer, which is just about to begin, or straight up just journal every day.
Okay.
Maybe you make notes on chores.
I like the idea of getting children notebooks that make them look like larger people.
Right.
So get them smaller writing utensils and smaller notebooks. And
we can hook you up with all of that. We can hook you up with baby versions of pens and pencils and baby versions of notebooks that could be like parent-child. You could even get the same color in 2 sizes so that they just look like a tiny you. Then you dress them like you, and then you go out in public, and it's like a smaller version of yourself sitting at the cafe table with you.
They make all the small kitchen sets for kids. So have them do a photo shoot with their tiny notebook and all the small kitchen and tiny. That's great.
Eat your heart out, Ann Geddes. You thought putting baby in a flower pot was cute, but you ain't never put a baby in a Leuchtturm work from home office. I got no beef with Ann Geddes. Those babies are really cute. Okay. Tiny notebooks. This is the cutest one.
And probably the smallest one. Well, we have something that a little smaller.
We have a slightly weirdo, like sketchbook style, smaller ones, and we do sell an A7 in a very small paperback that's very cheap at just $1 something, I think. This is a $10 tiny Leuchtturm, but it's more paper, and it's got like an elastic strap and a bookmark in it. It
might be a little chunky to throw in the back pocket if that's what you're thinking.
If you're trying to start a bullet journal for your cat, 100% tiny
cat bullet journal.
Cat bullet journal. Keep track of what they eat.
Let's get that on the website and just call it a cat bullet journal.
Bullet journal.
That's great.
Oh my gosh, you and your cat have matching bullet journal.
Cool.
Okay. there's no way I'm getting this
I
done.
can't wait to see if we sell any cat bullet journals.
I'm excited about it. Next up, okay, I want to talk about other small pocket-sized journals and some of the things you can do with them. So obviously, this Leuchtturm, it's an A6. A6? Yeah. We don't sell, so in the world of A6s, oh, there you are. Cool. So a Leuchtturm A6 is actually like, it feels a little narrow to me to write with. So I actually like, and I don't know how they're getting away with calling this A6, by the way. They might not officially call it that. Midori makes some of my favorite notebooks in the whole wide world, and their A6 notebook is the one that I use every day as a list journal. Oh.
Yeah, that's the 6.
Yep. Maybe Leuchtturm just has their own slightly different thing going on. I don't think so, though, because they start at A4. It doesn't matter. Okay, so Midori notebooks. Here's some feature sets for them. They come in a range of sizes, A6 up to, and this gets confusing, this is a B6 Slim, which means it's the height of a B6, but it's slightly narrower. Next up, you can get your A5, and this is a standard A5. It is the correct A5 size. And then you can have an A4, and it is the correct A4 size. So this is like your school notebook. This is your everyday journaling diary sized notebook. Then your everyday carry list notebook. That's what I use mine for. And it's going to be convenient because A6 sizes are really easy to find notebook covers for. They're easy to find refills for if you buy an expensive notebook cover. They're just going to be like more bang for your buck if you're trying to start a notebook program for your life, which I'm recommending, that won't disappear on you. Like they're not going to stop and discontinue this notebook. And that reliability for me is why I've chosen Midori as my primary notebook. Other reasons I like the Midori notebooks, the whole line, and I use both the A5 and the A6, they are stitch bound down the side. So let's spend a moment.
Ooh, we're going to talk bindings
We're
here?
going to talk some bindings really quick. Dang it, I'm already on a side road.
This is fine. We're really doing the overview of parts of a notebook today.
Yep.
Tomorrow, maybe we'll talk about
brands.
some actual brands.
I'll leave the piles here. Okay.
Piles are staying.
So notebooks are going to be bound in, there are many ways you can bind a notebook, but the most primary ones are going to be some
tape.
Kind of a glue binding with tape over it so that it looks nicer, or exposed. Glue binding can be covering either stitches, or they might just be like loose leaf, trimmed edge, and then each sheet is glued into the spine without a stitch. So it's going to be really hard to show on our very low quality, but an example of stitch binding would be this very cheap and small Apika A6 notebook has tape down the side, which covers up that there are 2 signatures stitched into this notebook. A signature,
what's a signature, Meredith?
A signature is so many things. It's how you buy a thing and make it yours. It's how you sign the check. And for reasons one of our fact checkers knows, it's the name for a group of papers, say an A3 that's been folded and then bound in some way with either staples or stitches. And this group of papers that was once one big sheet and is now a booklet is a signature. So this is one signature because all the folds went into one binding. But if you buy a nicer quality notebook, it will have more signatures. And this is all about flatness. So if your notebook only has one big folded scoop, there's so many dense papers in that middle fold that it's always going to have a little bit of a scoop. It will not lie super flat. As you work through the notebook, when you get to the middle gutter, it's finally going to be really flat, but working up to it and down from it is garbage. So some people don't mind that. Some people just can't with it. I'm looking for my most. This has one huge signature. It's made by Claire Fontaine. It's a French ruled notebook. It actually lays pretty flat when you look at it.
Big sig.
But when you open it up, it like really won't even stay.
I mean, if anybody's staple bound something on their own, you know this problem. Which is
meanwhile, here's a Tomoe River notebook. It is bound with, looks like, I don't know, 6 or 8 signatures. So when I open it, see how flat it lays? Even though this paper is very thin and fine and should want to pull back on itself, because it's more signatures, it's laying super flat for me. I can give another example of super flat. So here's a margin notebook. It has 4 4 signatures. So this is kind of interesting. It's going to lay pretty flat, but the signatures aren't all the same size. So it like slightly corrects the problem, but not as completely. So you can see it moving back on itself because it's just more sheets per signature. Here's a Clyde, 1 big signature, and nope, no howdy. This is fine because you can buy a notebook accessory that basically clips your notebook open for you. So if you want to save some cost and you're not too concerned about having a slight hump in the inner margin of your notebook, don't worry about how many signatures are in it. If you want your notebook to lay super flat, when you go shopping, just look at the side of the spine and see how many little scoop shapes there are and buy the notebook with the most scoops.
So these signatures here, like this is a small notebook, and they're
so many.
Each signature is probably only like
few papers. Let's count the signatures in a Midori A6 notebook.
Can't wait for this.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. I think it's 12. Hella signatures.
It's a lot of signatures for your dollar.
Sorry, I yelled into the mic. I'm just so excited. That's why it lays so flat. They don't even really promote that as one of the perks of a Midori. Most people choose it because the paper is really, it's again one of those Goldilocks products that the paper is not too slick and it's not too toothy. New thing to talk about alert.
Oh,
we'll get there.
Yeah.
But they lay super flat. If you thought a stitch signature where you have one running stitch combining a bunch of sheets and folding them so they don't lay flat is bad, wait till I tell you about staple binding, Paul.
Okay, tell me.
With a stitch bound notebook, because the stitch consistently run down the full size, both sides and side. When you open it, it may be a little, you might have to push it flat, but because the stitches are really regular, you're not going to have any planar deformation going along the y-axis. You'll just have some bloops along the x-axis. If you staple bind a notebook like a field notebook, you're also going to have deformation along the y-axis because everywhere a staple hit is going to make your notebook do a little of this.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? I didn't explain it with the best way.
It'll be a little wobbly.
It's going to be a little bit wobbly. Is that a problem for most people? Absolutely not. Field notes are a fantastic and not a system conforming notebook that is designed to literally fit in your pocket. The size of it is based on traditional seed notebooks made in America, probably starting before there was an ISO system, so we can't really blame them. They're just doing what they set out to do, which was recreate the seed brand notebook. So field notes are going to have rounded edges so you can easily slide them in and out of your pocket, which
not
is
gonna, that corner gonna get busted up.
Corner gonna get busted up anyway.
It stays a little cleaner.
Yeah, a lot of notebook companies you'll notice will have a rounded corner. If you're buying a notebook with a, there's a few notebook companies that still make square corners, but they're fewer and further between. This is an example of a Clyde notebook, which lays pretty flat but has square corners, but almost every other notebook we sell has a rounded corner. So yeah, they've got those staple bounds, but these notebooks are designed to be really rugged. They're in a farmer's pocket. They are not part of sort of my obsessive to detail notebook world. They're part of a quick and dirty, quick note-taking system that you just don't worry too much about. They're very affordable. Each notebook's under $4. So that's something to think about. Staple binding will not give you the flattest lay, but it will probably save you money because it's a little bit cheaper to produce.
Which is not to say Field Notes is not obsessed with the details, because typically they are.
They're obsessed with the different kind of details, the design details.
Finishes.
They have beautiful finishes. Their paper is designed more for use with pencils than pens. Because again, they're like a quick sketchy notebook, although they do make this one unusual notebook, the Expedition, that has what's basically Yupo paper in it, which is kind of a plasticky paper that is great. It can get wet.
Waterproof.
It's waterproof. So we've talked about staple binding. We've talked about stitch binding and signatures and how it might help you if you want a flat lay notebook to pick a notebook that's stitch bound and lots of signatures.
What if I want a notebook where the paper just falls out after I've used it for a while?
That is totally achievable. You're going to be looking for a pad in that case.
Yeah.
So a notebook will almost always, that term is used when the pages are bound together in a more permanent way. whereas pad is a term used in stationery notebooks to denote that the paper is designed to be removed one at a time. So for example, watercolor pads are meant to have you tear the paper out. A sketch pad is meant to have you tear the paper out. A sketchbook is probably coil bound or thread bound, so the paper stays inside. Pads versus books, who knew?
Yeah.
Stationary people. So, your question was if you want everything to fall out of your notebook.
If you want it just to be a total wreck after you've used it for like a few months and been throwing it in your bag.
Absolutely. Well,
get a pad.
The only real answer to that is get a pad. But if you want to purposefully remove sheets from your notebook, you have a few options. And in this case, I actually mean few. It's a little more rare, especially in the notebooks we sell, to have pages that are perforated or otherwise removed cleanly from a notebook. Some brands have a little bit of the paper at the back of the pad perforated, like I believe Leuchtturm does that. Some of the last sheets are perforated, so if you're on the go and you need to quickly jot a note and leave it for someone, you can cleanly tear a sheet out of your book without ruining most of your notebook. But there's one example of a pocket notebook that we carry specifically for a customer who's like, I want a pocket notebook. It can't be spiral bound because it's going in my pocket, and I need every page perforated. Rhodia has a plan for that. It's the Rhodia Unlimited Pocket Notebook, which has this very waterproof cover. It has an elastic strap to make it ride in your pocket more safely and easily, and every page is perforated. It's gridded out. It has rounded corners. It is the size of a field notes notebook for reasons I don't understand, since I know. 3.5 by 5.5 isn't a crazy size, but I'm sure there's a reason for it. I didn't research that. I probably will someday.
It's International Pocket Standard.
That's funny. IPO.
IPO.
No, IPS. Anyway, my nose got itchy thinking about pocket notebooks. I don't know where that came from. Okay, so do you need perforated pages? Well, you could look at that Rhodia Unlimited, which again is one of pretty few we have that are not spiral and still have perforated pages. If you want to know about all of our notebooks with perforated pages, call the store and we'll go through and we'll open every notebook and be like, nope, not perforated. Nope. So, okay. Pocket size notebooks, part 2. Field Note. Midori, who makes my favorite notebook already, also makes a notebook we've shared before called the Traveler's Notebook, which is a leather cover with interchangeable refills. And they make a refill for their notebook that is an entirely perforated pad. Let me find it amidst the million pads I'm going to show you eventually. So you could just be picking up for a mere $6 this little perforated pad by Midori that's a really nice, standard, easy size. It's going to fit easily in your pocket. And fun fact, it is all watercolor quality paper.
What?
Yep. So the way this was designed was to be a little pocket notepad that you could carry with you and tear out every page and send it as a watercolor postcard. Isn't that cute?
So it's like a real budget watercolor travel pad.
It's a little budget watercolor travel pad. So if you only want to communicate with people from now on in the watery shades of color, maybe you need this.
Yes, that's how our system of communication has devolved. We used to have social media to communicate, but then we got spied on by the big tech companies, so we all switched to communicating by watercolor painted postcards. And we were happier.
We were happier.
What's the... We only have a few... We got to leave. Really? Sorry to everybody who's just tuning in. We're doing a deep dive on notebooks today. This is just part 1. We're covering a lot of the basic parts of a notebook.
Yep.
But we got to cut today's broadcast a bit short to take Dave to the vet. Got a problem with his squeaker.
His squeaker's broke.
Squeaker's broke, so we got to find out why Dave sounds like he's been smoking.
Yeah. I hope he hasn't been out smoking.
Why has Dave been smoking?
It's just not healthy. So basics we've covered are basic notebook sizing rules. We've talked about pocket notebooks a little bit and whether you want something like rounded, easy to slide in and out, maybe something with perforated pages. Maybe you want a tiny notebook to start your cat's bullet journal. Maybe, here's a product I didn't open, so this isn't that helpful too, but one of our favorite notebook brands is Baron Fig. They're actually one of the few American-made companies that we carry at
American
this time.
designed, made in Taiwan.
Sure, I should, yes. But almost everything's printed not in America.
Yeah.
With the exception of maybe Write notebooks. Anyway, this is a pocket-sized notebook that, like the Lloyd term, is hardback and looks like a tinier version of a larger diary, so very classy, but is an even smaller pocket size. It's quite thick, though. So if you're going to be putting your pocket notebook in your back pocket, you're going to get a lumpy butt.
Not that one.
Nope. But if you want to have a tiny office for your tiny child that looks just like your larger office,
Yeah, there you
100%.
go.
Because you could definitely get the adult version of this notebook, in some cases in the same color.
Yeah.
They come in these wonderful boxes. So here's a not quite A5. It's slightly shorter, right?
Yep. It's a little smaller.
Slightly. Let's do a quick compare and contrast with an A5 notebook. Yeah, it's slightly shorter, so we can compare. The Baron Fig a little bit less tall, but no less beautiful than a Leuchtturm. Instead of a leatherette cover, though, it's got a cloth cover. So you might want to cover it with an additional plastic cover if you're worried about it picking up stains, or just let it happen.
Mm-hmm.
There's no worries. This cover also means you can get it printed, though, over at Acme with like vinyl lettering and get your own design on it. Heads up.
Cool.
So maybe that's something you want in a notebook. Of course, we have rounded corners, hard covers, and a version for your baby or your cat. What else could you need in a notebook? Well, let's go over briefly what else you might be looking for in a notebook. And then I'll talk more about each brand and how they deliver on those tomorrow. So, quick review. What you got?
Randy asks if the box is A5, so it packs and ships the same. And indeed, Randy cracks the code. Box of the Baron Fig Confidant is A5 size.
Very close to A5.
Or just slightly under.
Slightly shorter. Okay, so we talked about Baron Fig. We'll talk more about their many offerings. Another very popular notebook, mostly in the A5 size, though they make lots of sizes, is Rhodia. Don't want to leave them out. They make a super good quality notebook. We'll talk about its features tomorrow, but I went into this pile to show in the A5 size, if you decided that's your zone, maybe what you're after is something that lays so flat you'll think you're writing on an A4 piece of paper, something like the Mossery Threadbound. It has so many signatures, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 again. They are stitch bound with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10 stitches. Midori has more stitches down the center than that, but this is still a lot. It lays super duper flat, and you cannot pull those pages out though. But the fun thing about one of these Mossery Threadbounds is, though I don't see my refill, the design is a cover with a refill inserted. So when you finish one notebook, you can pull out your completed refill, keep the cover, we sell the refills, replace it, and you've created less waste in the world. And then you have a naked version of your notebook, and that's always hot. I don't know about y'all, but naked notebooks are my preference. It's very natural. It's a natural way to be. Midori's notebooks are also naked, which is to say you can see exposed all of the spine features. And that's what happens when you pull a Mossery open and look under its hood. Mossery used to mostly make spiral-bound notebooks, and still do, that also lay very flat, but spirals lay flat while also having a huge Humpty Hump in the middle. I'm not mad at a Humpty Hump. Lefties are sometimes, like, that can be uncomfortable, but you can always turn it upside down and just get weird about the direction of your writing. So, spiral notebooks, thread-bound notebooks, pocket notebooks, A5 notebooks, B6 notebooks. We'll talk more about
But what's
this later.
inside the notebook, Meredith?
I don't have much time to talk about it, Paul. What do you want me to say about it? I can't cover all of this.
I mean,
I'm gonna have to come back tomorrow.
right. We're gonna come back tomorrow.
We're gonna come back tomorrow. How much time do we have? We have maybe 5-10 minutes. Because I know I can't finish and started like moving toward a summary, I now don't know where to backtrack to tell y'all about my many beautiful notebooks. I know. Let's do our last 5 minutes talking about some. So we covered some notebook basics, some size stuff. We talked about some binding stuff, like are you going to want a staple bound or a stitch bound? Would you maybe want a wire bound? Reasons you may want a wire bound notebook would include If you're using it especially as a sketchbook or a quick sloppy note and you want to easily remove a page and destroy it so nobody knows either how bad your handwriting was that day or how far off base your list of to-dos was that you never finished, destroy the evidence. Unlike in a thread-bound notebook, with a wire-bound, you can easily rip a sheet out and burn it in a fire. No problem. No one's going to know there's missing pages, which is always the giveaway clue in a murder mystery.
Right.
The pages are missing, so then they go in there and they like rub over it with the lead and they see
Well,
what
you
you
have
wrote down.
to pull. Sometimes you have to pull out the little
Sure.
bits and pieces from the. So if you're doing crime,
Yep.
pull the bits and pieces out of
if
the
you're gonna do
spiral.
crime, spend the time to remove the little bits out of the, I'm gonna call it the spine of your wire-bound notebook.
Yep.
But that's one reason people tend to prefer wire bounds over the alternatives. If you don't mind the wire being there. If you're carrying your notebook with you every day, a wire sometimes gets caught up in your bag as you take it in and out.
You've seen it all. Bent out of shape. Then they stop opening.
Absolutely.
Right.
So in the world of wire bounds, almost everything I have on my desk today this is also called a wire bound. And if it's called wire bound, that should always indicate that it's going to be a double wire that's more sturdy. Coil bound or spiral bound is a word describing a single coiled wire holding your notebook together at the spine.
And that's your Big Produce Mead notebook.
They are. We do sell one fantastic spiral bound notebook, and that is the Maruman Spiral Basic. Spirals are cheaper. It's less metal. They're less weighty. It's cheaper to produce, but that's the kind of wire where you can easily yoink it out from the top and it forms one continuous spiral. A coil-bound notebook is actually individual little clips of coil that go around. So that is an important difference when you're shopping online or at Wonderfair or call us. If you say you want a wire-bound notebook, we're going to know that a coil or spiral is probably not what you're looking for, although we might mention our cheapy coil option too. Did anybody know that? It's just a fun fact.
That's good stuff.
It's just a fun fact about notebooks. Meads are almost always just a single spiral bound. So, and it's called spiral because it looks like a spiral, folks. And this is called a wire bound because wire. That was pretty obvious. Okay, this is wire bound, and this is wire bound, and this is wire bound, and this
is
Rhodia
secret wire bound. Or well, do we have one of these where it's covered up?
This is considered a covered wire bound, even though it's not 100% covered. But some nicer companies will build their wire into a paper cover armature or totally cover it to help eliminate the problem of coils grabbing your stuff in your bag and getting bent out of shape.
Nice feature.
Perks of a coil bound, while we're on it and I'm out of time anyway, I mostly like a coil bound for like my quick note taking. Like I use it as a project notebook a lot. In fact, I use a Mosseri coil as my project notebook because you can slide your pen down the coil and it holds your pen for you. It's the little things.
Yeah,
folks.
It's like a built-in pen loop.
It's a built-in pin loop. You can always add a pin loop. Nobody's going to be mad if you do that. But I kind of like that it's always there for me.
Some notebooks have them built in, right? Do we have
Okay.
any notebooks with built-in pen loops? Somewhere.
Yes, we do.
I'm
We have
sure.
several. We can talk about them in another time.
Bonus features. That's a whole other segment.
Yeah. So coils. Coils, spirals, wire bounds.
Bedtime.
It's
I think we got to knock
bedtime.
off today.
I think we got to knock off. We got to.
We got to
baby.
pack up Dave and take him to the vet.
Mhm.
So sorry to bail a little bit early today. Thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow for part 2.
So much I didn't
Is
share.
it part 2 of 2 or is it part 2 of
Well,
3, 4?
I feel like I covered the very basics of sizes, bindings, and occasionally I got distracted by myself and I talked about specifics of a single brand.
There's a lot of exciting stuff here.
I think we'll start talking about specifics of a single brand tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to talk about basic guts and specialty guts.
Specialty guts coming
It's
your
going
way.
to be a Spill Your Guts Notebooks edition on Wonderfair. And while we talk about guts, we're going to spill our guts and share secrets about ourselves.
Oh, okay.
That'll be fun, right?
Sure. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll be back tomorrow for part 2 in our notebook deep dive, part 2 of an ongoing series.
Sorry, it's a little distracting. I'm just very worried about Dave Squeaker.
Worry about Dave Squeaker. We're gonna go see if we can learn more about why Dave sounds like he's been smoking.
Yep.
But we'll be back tomorrow. We'll see you then. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Don't call us in the next hour because we're not going to be here. We apologize. We'll catch you later. I'm going to end this stream
Great.
on a high note with a little motivation for Dave to do well, which is this Good Luck Cat notebook. We're all going to be hoping for good luck that Dave is just, I don't know, too many meows. He just tuckered it out. I don't know. Send us your good vibes, everybody. Adios.